Hello everyone, how are y'all doing today? Today where I am, it's raining. It's a little chilly outside, but you know what they say, April showers, so it's to be expected. I'm assuming, I guess it's to be expected. So anyway, the reason why I'm here today is we're doing, me and a few women in my group are doing a tribute to mothers. Regardless whether you're old or young, if you're a mother, if you're a true mother, this is a celebration to y'all, to everyone, especially my mother. And I'm gonna do a story time on all three of my kids, so when I gave birth to them. So, number one, my first child was a girl. She was 8 pounds, 12 ounces, 21 inches long. And when I went into labor, I was home. And my husband was my boyfriend at the time. He had just left my house after some extracurricular activities. And about, I would say, a good half an hour after he left from said activities, I started feeling pains in my stomach. So, you know, I had gas my whole 9 months, so I'm thinking, okay, I got the bubble guts again, you know, let me go to the bathroom. So I go to the bathroom, and I'm sitting there for maybe about 10 minutes, nothing's coming out. So I said, okay, maybe I have to help this along. So I start to push, you know, and I'm pushing. And so nothing was coming out. So I said, all right, so I got gas, but it's not ready. So I said, let me wipe myself, and then, you know, I'll go lay down and just let it do what it do, and I'll come back. So I go to wipe myself, and when I wiped myself, I saw spotting. So even though this was my first pregnancy, I'm in my 9th month, and I'm showing spotting. So I automatically knew I was in labor. So at the time, I'm trying to, I didn't have a phone in my house, you know, and I didn't have a cell phone back then. And like back then we was doing beepers, and I didn't have a beeper and stuff like that. And I didn't have a cell phone and didn't have a house phone. I was living with my mother. And the only one that was home with me was my younger brother. And he was maybe about, I was 21 when I had my daughter. So he was like 19. He was 19. So what I did, and you know the crazy thing about, I had no money on me, no change, nothing. And I went in his room, he didn't have any change on him and stuff like that. So now the pains are starting to kick in. Right? The pains are starting to kick in. So now I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't get in touch with the baby's father. Nobody's home but my brother. I don't have no change. He don't have no change. Neither one of us have any phones or beepers or anything to get in touch with anybody. So I'm like, okay, I'm worried, but I'm not freaking out. So I said to my brother, he was like, well, what do you need change for? So I looked at him, I started smiling. You know, I was bent over, I looked at him, started smiling, and first thing he said was, no. And I was like, yeah. He went berserk. He was like, I knew it, God damn it, I knew it. I fucking knew that when you went into labor, I was gonna be the one left with your ass. I knew this shit was gonna happen, God damn it, the hell. And I'm sitting there, I am in tears from laughing. I'm cracking up watching him freak out. And when I say all of this that I'm telling you that he said was what he said. And I'm crying, laughing, even though I'm in so much pain, but I could not help but laugh because I'm watching him literally, if y'all could have seen his face, he was freaking out. And he was like, I knew this shit. I knew the fuck I was going to be left with your ass when you went into labor. And so I said, listen, I said, you don't have any change. I don't have any change. I said, I need you to call my boyfriend's job. I need you to call his job because he should be at work by now. Call his job and tell them to give him the message that his girlfriend is in labor and he has to turn around and come back home. He said, but I don't have no change. I said, go outside. Anybody that you see outside, ask them for a quarter and go to the payphone outside and call his job and call him. So after asking, he said maybe about 15 people and nobody would give him a quarter. Somebody finally gave him a quarter, and he called my boyfriend, who is my husband now. He called his job. And they got to my husband just when he was walking in the building to go to work. My sister ran out because she was working the same job he was working. They both was working security. She runs out and she tells him, you know, she calls his name and she was like, look, Tawana's in labor. You got to hurry up. You got to go home. She's in labor. So they both leave the job, and he's so nervous and stuff. He ran right past his car. Like, he forgot where he parked. He ran past his car, and he kept on going. And she called him, and she was like, where you going? Your car right here. So he turned around, he looked, and he ran back to his car. He got in the car. They got me when what happened is, while he was on his way, I was outside trying to catch a cab. Nobody would stop for me. I was bent over in pain, but nobody would stop. No cab drivers would stop. So this one cab driver said he seen me from down the block bent over, and he stopped. And I said, thank you, because nobody would stop. So I told him, I said, sir, I don't have any money on me. I said, but if you get me to my aunt's house, if you would take me to my aunt's house, I promise you, somebody will pay you when we get there. So he said, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So he took me to my aunt's, because that's where my mother was. That's where my sisters and everybody was. So he took me there because I was going to need somebody to go with me to the hospital. So he took me there, and I had somebody to come downstairs and pay him. And then they helped me upstairs. So while I was there, my husband shows up at my aunt's house, and he took me to the hospital. Him and my sister, the one that was running with him, they took me to the hospital. When I tell you, he hit every bump in the street. I'm in the car like, boost. And he's so nervous. He's speeding, but he's hitting, like, he wasn't missing one bump. He was hitting everything. And I got to the hospital. They said to him, go register her in. She probably won't be having the baby till sometime tonight. So he went. He was gone 15 minutes. Within that 15 minutes, I gave birth to my daughter. When he left me, they took me in a room. They gave me a cup, and they told me, we're going to need some urine from you. So I gave them the urine. I went in the bathroom to give them the urine. And while I was in the bathroom, I threw up. See, the thing is, when I normally, well, not anymore, but normally when I would get my menstrual every month, I always threw up. I would always get sick, and I would throw up. So when I went into labor, they had me to go in the bathroom to give them some urine. I gave them I went in there to give them the urine, but before I could do anything, I felt myself getting nauseous, and I threw up. When I threw up, the pressure from me throwing up, my daughter had shot through me. I had on shorts. Her head shot through me. So when her head shot, that's when all the pains that I was having, all my pains went away, because the head had came through. So I'm running down the hallway with her head between my legs. You couldn't see it. All you seen is a bulge between my legs. I couldn't close my legs because her head was there. So it was preventing me from closing my legs. So I'm running down the hall like this, and I'm yelling, nurse, nurse. And then she's like, what? I said, I think the baby came through. And so they went and got a bed and brought it in the hallway, picked me up and put me on the bed. When they put me on the bed, they went and got some scissors and they cut my shorts off me. And when they cut my shorts off, the baby's head was right there, like complete. You seen head, nose, eyes, everything was just sitting right there. And the nurse, I don't know if she's ever witnessed a baby being born, but one of the nurses fainted right then and there when she seen the head. She fainted. And the doctor was like, get her out of here. So they went and, you know, they got some stuff to revive her. I'm in the hallway on the table. I couldn't make it to the delivery room because her head was already through. So they took me to the very next room that was empty. And they took me in there. They told me to push. I pushed twice and my daughter came out. My husband came upstairs. And when he came upstairs, I was in the room with her in my arms, and the doctors were sewing me up. And he was like, what the hell, what happened? Y'all was supposed to call me. And they was telling him that this wasn't something was planned. All of this just happened. So they had to stitch me up inside out because she had ripped me so bad by coming out of me from me throwing up that she had basically shredded me up. She had really shredded me up. So I was hemorrhaging. So they had me on watch. I was being, every half an hour they was coming in giving me shots in my hip to try to stop the blood from flowing, because they said the blood was running out of me like water. So they said if they didn't stop the bleeding that I would hemorrhage to death. So they was coming in there every half an hour giving me shots to try to stop the blood flow. So they wound up stopping it. When my husband came in the room and I was holding the baby in my arms, the first thing I said to him when he walked through the door, I said, babe, I'm hungry. I want some White Castle. And he's standing there like, what the? And I'm asking for White Castle with the baby in my arm and the doctor's down there sewing me up. So that was my first experience with my first child. I'm gonna tell y'all about the second in a minute. Hey y'all, so this is day 2, continuation of my Mother's Day tribute. And this is my story on my deliveries of my 3 kids. So I didn't get to finish the first video because, well, I did finish, but I didn't get to start this one because I went to my cousin's house, and I'll show y'all a video on what happened when I got up in my cousin's house. So that's a whole nother story, but this is a continuation. So we finished the first part of my daughter's birth. Now we're going on to my first son. With my first son, it was my pregnancy went pretty okay. I did the whole, you know, morning sickness. I did that for the first 3 months. I was having like little sharp pains in my pelvic area and stuff like that. And oh wait, there was one at one point. He was sitting on a nerve in my stomach, but the nerve went from my stomach into my leg. So he was sitting on a nerve, which caused me to not be able to move my leg. So my husband used to have to take my leg and inch it off the bed very slowly because it was very, 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 very painful. I never felt no pain like this ever. He used to have to ease my leg, slide my leg off the bed so I could stand up. And he would have to walk me to the bathroom, and he would have to wait for me to get out, walk me back to the bed, and then help me bring my leg up in the bed. This went on for about, I think it went on for about 2 months. And I went to the doctor because I was so scared because I didn't know what was going on. And that's when the doctor, they x-rayed me and stuff, and they told me that he was sitting on a nerve in my leg. So I asked him, what could I do about it? Because it was so painful. There was times I would cry. I would be bawling. And the doctor said, there's nothing we could do. You're going to have to wait for him to move. he's going to have to move out of the position he's in. When he moves, that's going to release the pain and everything you're going through. So I'm like, okay, this is not a problem, because babies, the whole time they're in your stomach, all they do is move around, kick, and all types of stuff, stretch. So I'm like, oh, all right, piece of cake. All I got to do is just, nudge him along, push the stomach here or there, and, he'll get the message. Man, listen, he did not budge. He sat on that nerve until he couldn't sit on it no more. And when he finally moved off that nerve, I think I was 7 months when he finally moved off that nerve. But it was such a freaking relief. I was just, oh my gosh. I mean, when I tell you the pain that I used to be in, oh my gosh, it's like a permanent Charlie horse. But I've had a Charlie horse before, but it's like a permanent Charlie horse, but like 3 times the pain. It was ridiculous. I mean, I hated when I had to get up and go to the bathroom, because I knew I was going to have to move my legs in order to do it. And then I had my daughter, so I had to take care of her. So I used to have to, my mother, the good thing about it is when I had my son, I was living in a building. It was a 3-family building. My sister lived on the very top floor. My mother lived on the first level, and I lived on the ground floor. So whatever I couldn't do, my sister or my mother would come downstairs and help me, because I was literally bedridden. And so that was that. When I went into labor with him, now mind you, the whole 9 months, my husband had he was going through the motions. Like he was throwing up. Like the whole 9 months, he threw up when I tell you every morning he threw up, he was getting the morning sickness right along with me. He was, even days that I didn't throw up, he would throw up. He was at work, calling me from work. He was throwing up at work and stuff like that. He had a craving for cookies and cream ice cream. He had to have that. Mind you, he had cravings for all 3 kids, and it was always cookies and cream ice cream. But the minute after I had them, he had no desire for for that particular ice cream. But the whole pregnancy, he had to have cookies and cream ice cream at least once a day. So every day I would send to the store to get him ice cream. So when he came home from work, he would have ice cream. Now, my thing, every pregnancy that I had, my cravings were, now this is crazy, y'all, but my cravings were ice, toilet paper, and brown paper bags. Now, I know, and matches. The part of the match that you light. Yeah, I used to chew that and then throw the stick in the garbage. And it was a ritual. It was a ritual, and I know that's not good for you, but I could not help it. That's what I was craving. I would eat and this is the order that it went. And I kid you not, I'm not lying to you. This was every single pregnancy. This is the order it went. I kept matches. I would go to the store and buy matches. At that time, matches was like, a pack of matches was like $2. I mean, not $2, 2 cents. I had a drawer full of matches, matchbooks, just matches. And I would eat the matches, throw the stick away. Then I would have to have ice right after that, which I wouldn't, and it wasn't ice. I had to have you know how you put the ice in ice trays just before it get hard? It's like glossy, real, like glass. And I would dig in it and I would eat the ice out of there. And then after that, I would chew. If we didn't have a brown paper bag, which we hardly ever had, my preference was toilet paper. After I would eat the ice, I would chew on toilet paper till it got soaking wet and then throw it in the toilet. I didn't swallow it or nothing like that. I just had to chew it. It was the flavor of it or something. I don't know. I had to chew the toilet paper and then I threw it in the garbage. So I would roll up some more, I would ball it up, I would chew on it until it got soaking wet, and then I would throw it in the garbage. This was every single day, every pregnancy. I'm shocked that I didn't have any complications, especially because of the matches. But this was what was going on. I didn't understand it either, because with my first daughter, you know, I had never been pregnant before, so I didn't know. But this is what I was craving, and I had to have it, and it went through for every single pregnancy. So my husband, he didn't understand it. He used to yell at me, "Stop it, stop it." I used to sneak and do it when he would stay at my house. I would sneak and go in the bathroom and do it so he couldn't see me. I mean, I was addicted, like for real, for real. And that was that. But when I went into labor, my husband was throwing up all over the place. I threw up, and I was in the house, and I was dealing with it. The pains was okay for a while, and I'm watching my husband go through all of these stages of crying and throwing up, and his stomach was hurting, and every time he would look at me, he would catch pains in his stomach, and his face was red, his eyes was all watery because he kept throwing up, and I'm looking at him like, all right, I get it. You could stop now. You're doing too much. It was cute at first, but now it's getting to be ridiculous. So, but this was really what was going on with him. He wasn't faking it or whatever, but he was going, this is what was really going on with him. So my mother was saying to me, she was like, you should be happy, because if a man goes through your sicknesses with you, that just shows how much he loved you and how much you are connected, that he's feeling what you're feeling. I said, well, if that's the case, when I get to the hospital, I want him to feel these labor pains. You know what I'm saying? I want him to feel this birthing that I'm about to, do. Let him feel it. Let me stay home, and he could do that. He could do, if he want to be that close to me, let him go to the hospital and take on these pains and pushing his baby out. And you know what I'm saying? And I give him his props. But unless that, stop. Cut it out. So we go to the hospital, and mind you, all three of my kids, he took me to the hospital. All three of them, he took me. So we went to the hospital, and this time my younger sister went with us to the hospital. The first time was my older sister. The second time my younger sister went. And we get to the hospital. Once again, they told him to go register me in. And he said, listen, I don't want to come up here and she done had the baby and y'all didn't call me, because that's what happened the first time when my daughter was born. Well, not that hospital, because I had all three of them at a different hospital. But he was explaining to them how my first child, when I had her, they told him they was going to call him, and they didn't. And when he came upstairs, 15 minutes later, my daughter was born, and I was sitting up asking for White Castle. So they told him, don't worry, Mr. Robinson, we're going to call you, blah, 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 we're going to call you. So he goes to go sign me in. While he in there signing me in, I went through the whole, my 10th centimeter, I was there. They rushed me in the room. Oh my gosh, she's ready. They took me in there, they rushed me in the room. And when my husband got upstairs, they were wheeling the baby in the hallway, taking him to the nursery. They was wheeling him out in the little bed, the little clear bed that they put them in. So he comes upstairs and the baby's passing him. He's standing there, he's looking, because he don't know that that's our baby. So he's looking at the baby. They just walking past him and the baby's just passing him like this. And my sister, she said to him, yo, that's your baby. He said, what? She said, that's your baby that they pushing past you. So he went and ran over. He looked, and he's like screaming, why ain't nobody call me? I told y'all this happened once before. I wanted to be there, see my son born. I wanted to be there, blah, 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 blah. So my sister grabbed him and shook him. She was like, don't worry about that. You got your boy. You got your boy. And then he was getting ready to yell again, and he stopped. He said, I had a boy? And she said, yeah, because before me and my husband got together, he had already had a child that, when me and my husband got together, I was 15. He was 16 going on 17. I was 15 going on 16. He had his daughter. So I raised her. So, after her, then me and him had our daughter. And because they came back to back, two girls, he just assumed he couldn't make boys. And he always wanted a son. So when she shook him and said, don't worry about that. You got your boy. And he was getting ready to say something else. He said, I got a boy? And they said, yes, you got your boy. And he just bust out and started crying. He just started crying, and he just hugged my sister. And he's like, I got my boy. I got my boy. And then he started calling all his family all over in Cleveland and in Georgia. He's calling all his cousins and his aunts and all that. I got my boy. I got my boy. I got my boy. And he came in the room to me. And I was laying there. Boy, when I tell you I was out of it. He came in there and he's rubbing my head, and he's looking at me, and he's smiling. His eyes is red as fire. He looked like he done smoked 50 blunts. Mind you, he don't smoke, but I'm saying that's what he looked like. And his eyes, and he tearing and stuff, and he looked at me and he's like, baby, we got our boy. We did it. I looked up at him. I said, we did what? I said, what the hell did we do? I said, I know I did something. I said, where the hell was you at? I said, I know I was in here squeezing cheese just a minute ago. I don't know what the hell you was doing. So I said, you talk about we did it. I was like, we ain't did shit. You mean I did it? I did it. I said, your part was like 5 minutes, son. And it was enjoyable. What I just went through was not enjoyable. It wasn't 5 minutes. I don't know what you talking about. We ain't do shit. I did it. Don't come up in here, pat yourself on the back, talking about we, because I know damn well you didn't feel what I just felt just a minute ago. But anyway, I understood. But, So, he was happy and all that. So, whatever. So, I let it go. He got nerve. Anyway, that was number 2. Oh, and he was 7 pounds, 9 ounces. My daughter was 8 pounds, 12 ounces. So now, with my younger son, when I got pregnant with him, we was not looking to have, well, let me clear that up. I was not looking to have any more kids because my husband has this thing about me working when we have children. He don't want anybody babysitting them. He don't want them going to daycare and stuff like that because he said he don't trust the people that watch the kids. And a lot of people bring their kids to them daycare sick, and then your kid come home sick. So he was like, listen, I make enough money to where you don't have to work and stuff like that. So I don't want you working, especially not while the kids are young, da, da, da. So we had a little argument about that because I'm like, listen, I don't want to work. I want to work. But, I understood where he was coming from because we had started seeing a lot of stuff on the news about stuff that was happening to kids in these daycares and stuff. So when he made a really strong stand on that. And so I was like, all right, if that's what you want, okay. So I was home and, so I wound up getting pregnant, and I had missed my menstrual. But the thing is with my monthly, it never came when it's supposed to. So I didn't think nothing of it when I missed it because it never, from the time I first got it, it never came on time. So I didn't think nothing of it. But after about a month and a half, I was like, wait a minute. Did I get sick? Did I? So I started, going through my pads and stuff. I said, wait a minute, I got a brand new box of pads that ain't been touched. And I know I bought them for this menstrual coming. Okay, so something ain't right. So I said to my husband, I don't know, I might be pregnant, blah, blah, blah. He said, why you say that? And I told him. So we went, and we live in East New York, and East New York, Brooklyn, and I had to go drive all the way to Queens because that was the only 24-hour pharmacy that we knew of. So it took us like 45 minutes to drive there, and we went and got three pregnancy tests. All three of them that I took was, mind you, I took 3 different brands from 3 different companies. And I took them home. I took every last one of them. Every last one of them said negative. Every last one of them said negative. So me and him sitting there, and we're like, okay, I can understand if the first one might have been, not pregnant. But all 3 of them from 3 different companies, they all said negative. That wasn't a coincidence. At least that's what I thought. So we was like, okay, so you're not pregnant. So then what's wrong? Why you haven't gotten sick? So I said, I don't know. So at this time, I'm not worried. I said, maybe my menstrual is just doing something crazy again. So I just waited. I waited another 2 weeks. Still didn't come. But I'm not having any symptoms. My breasts are not sore. I'm not feeling anything. I'm not feeling any different. I'm not having morning sickness. I'm not having any pains. Nothing like that. So now I'm getting scared. So I went back to another pharmacy and bought a pregnancy test. And now this is the 4th one I bought. I went to a whole new pharmacy and I bought another one. And it came out negative once again. So now me and my husband are scared. We're both scared now. And he's like, nah, something ain't right. You got to go to hospital because this isn't, something ain't right. He said, you done took 4 pregnancies, so we know you're not, 4 pregnancy tests, so we know you're not pregnant. So something else is going on. So I'm thinking, I'm a worrywart. Hold on 1 minute, y'all. Sorry, y'all, that was UPS. Anyway, so we're scared to death now. So I make an appointment at the doctor's, and I told them the whole situation about my menstrual and how I didn't think it was, pregnancy because my menstrual be late all the time, but this time it was extremely late. Like I'm talking about now we're moving into like 2 months, and I still haven't got my menstrual. Took 4 pregnancy tests, 3 from the same spot, the same pharmacy, but different companies. Then I took a 4th one from a whole different pharmacy. All 4 of them came back negative. So the doctor's like, okay, take off your clothes. We're going to see what's going on. He said a lot of times it's nothing. You could be, off, or maybe your menstrual is just changing, stuff like that. Because sometimes sometimes it'll shift and change, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, so now I'm feeling a little more calm once he said that, it could be that it just changed. So I'm like, okay. So I'm taking my clothes off and stuff. He's checking me. He said, we're gonna send for a pregnancy test, blah, blah, blah. So I said, all right. I'm thinking it's not pregnancy because I just took 4 pregnancy tests and they all came out negative. And from what the doctor told me, that they basically use the same type of pregnancy test when they do pregnancy tests on women that we buy from the pharmacy. So I was like, all right, well, it's going to say the same thing that the other one says. Whatever, do what you do, So I get up there, he checks me out. He said, everything looks good, blah, 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 blah. That was relief, I needed a pap smear anyway and all of that. So I was good with that. So I'm like, okay, good. So then he said, we're just going to wait for the pregnancy test. So the pregnancy test, he went out, he took the test out. He comes back after a while because he told me, he said, once he left out, he said, you could get dressed now. So I got dressed. He said, okay, I'm going to test the pregnancy test and I'll be back. So I said, all right, I'm getting dressed, and he told my husband he could come back in. So we sitting there. So he said, what do you think it is? I said, no, he just told me that sometimes with menstrual, it can shift, it can change, sometimes, as you're getting older, sometimes it'll shift, it'll change stuff. He see it all the time. It's really nothing to worry about, blah, blah, blah. So my husband's like, oh, thank God, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, we're going to see, whatever. So he comes back. He said, well, I know why you haven't had your menstrual and all these things is going on with her. So I was like, what? Now I'm thinking he's about to tell me some shit. Like, oh my gosh, I'm scared to death. He said, you're pregnant. So I was like, huh? What? He was like, you are pregnant. I said, no, I'm not. He said, yes, you are. I said, no, I'm not. So he put his hands on he said, yes, you are. I said, I couldn't be. How can I be pregnant? I just took 4 pregnancy tests. I said, doc, 3 of them was from different companies. And then I took a 4th one. And that one said, no pregnancy. I said, so how am I pregnant all of a sudden? So he said, listen, sometimes these pregnancy tests are faulty. He said, and it is surprising that all 3 of them that you bought, all 3 of them said not pregnant at the same time. And then you had a 4th one that said not pregnant. He says sometimes when you take a pregnancy test too early, it might not pick up on the hormones that shows pregnancy. He said, sometimes you have to wait a couple of months or whatever. So he asked me, when did you take the pregnancy test? I said, like a month after I realized that I wasn't sick. He's like, well, what time of the day? He said, the best time to take it is first thing in the morning, if you're going to do that. So I said, well, I don't know, whatever. So he said, yes, you're pregnant. And he told me he said I was about 2.5 months or something like that. 2.5, 3 months. And I was like, wow. So me and my husband just looked at each other and we was both like, wow. And I got home, but I mean, we were shocked because we wasn't looking to have any more kids, but I'd rather that than for it to be something else, something serious. So we got home and I dealt with that and blah, blah, blah. I told everybody in the family, my mother, everybody was happy. And so, things went on. Then as I got further along, I started having the morning sicknesses and stuff like that. And my husband, he wasn't throwing up, but he still was getting the cravings for the cookies and cream ice cream. But the throwing up thing wasn't happening anymore. And but he had to have ice cream. And it had to be cookies and cream. It couldn't have been chocolate, vanilla, strawberry. Mind you, he loved those flavors, but it had to be cookies and cream. Now, I went back to my matches and my tissue and ice. I didn't have too many issues with, I think it was once I got in my 8th month, he was kicking like crazy, pushing his foot or arm or whatever out of me. Looked like I was carrying an alien. And he would do it all the time. And mostly he did it when I was ready to go to sleep. He would do so much moving. I mean, it would be like I'm laying down and you would just see my stomach just push out like this. It really looked weird. My husband used to talk to my stomach when I would sleep because he would come home from work and it'd be late. Hold on 1 minute, y'all. All right, y'all. I had another delivery. I'm telling you, I'm popular today with these deliveries, boy. You know what? I ain't gonna go into how often I shop online. It's ridiculous. At this point, it's borderline addictive. Anyway, so I go into labor. No. Matter of fact, I didn't go into labor. I was overdue with my last son. I was overdue, and I was scheduled to be induced. Man, I never had been induced before, so I was scared to death. No, I didn't. Yeah, because I didn't have any pains and stuff. I was overdue, and the doctor told me that I should have gave birth, that I was overdue, and I was like, no, I'm not. And he scheduled me to be induced. And I did not want to be induced because I had never been induced before. I had natural birth with my first 2. So I did not want to be induced. First of all, it's like this. When you hear induce, you get scared because you don't know what it entails, what they're gonna have to do to you. I'm already scared of needles, like seriously. Like when I was pregnant, when I had to go get blood drawn and stuff like that, like literally my husband and the doctors had to hold me down so they could give me a needle, because I'm like, me and needles are not friends. I've always been scared of needles. Doesn't matter. I'm scared to death. Like they literally, my husband had this, I was pregnant like 6, 7 months. My husband sitting on my lap, holding my arm down, and the nurses, him and the nurse holding, and I'm freaking out. So when they said induced, I'm thinking all kinds of crazy shit that they was going to do to me. So I was like, I was not with it. I was not with it. So I was trying to think, so this particular morning, I was supposed to register in the hospital to be induced. And I was scared to go. So I was trying to come up with all kinds of reasons to stay home. So first, I tried to oversleep. That didn't help. That didn't work. And my husband was like not going for it. So I was thinking, he's like, come on, babe, we got to get up. We got to go. You got to get induced today. So we got to be there. We have to be there at a certain time. Come on. So I was like, okay, can I just sleep for another half an hour? And he was like, no, we need to go now. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm scared to death. My heart racing. So I'm saying, what can I do to stop him from forcing me to go? So only one thing I could think of that would have stopped him in his tracks. And that was sex. Because I was like, he ain't going to say no to sex. I don't care how tired he is. I don't care if he's been working outside on the car. I don't care if he's been working for 18 hours straight or 24 hours straight. If I say, babe, you want sex? He will never turn me down for that. He'd be like, hell yeah. You ain't even have to ask me. You could have just walked over and touched my face and I would have. So when I said that, he just stopped. And he was like, but babe, we got to go to the hospital. I said, all right, well, if you don't want it. He just stood there looking at me. He's like, fuck it. he took off his clothes. And when I tell you, I tried to make sex last, because one thing about him, he is not going to stop until he knows that I am pleased. So I tried to prolong the pleasure or the no pleasure to keep him working, to keep us in that room, so where I would miss my date, because they would have had to reschedule me. So we in there, poor thing in there, pumping his little heart out, trying his best to satisfy me. and he kept asking me, are you there yet? Are you there yet? Are you there yet? I was like, no, I don't understand what's going on. But I'm not, what I said was, I'm not building up. I'm not getting, and he was like, all right, we gonna do this. We gonna get you there. He's like, we gonna get you there. And I don't know at what point, but something made him realize that all this was just an act to keep me from going to the hospital. And when he finally put 2 and 2 together and realized what was going on, he was like, oh, hell no. And he got up off me and he went and cleaned himself up and said, get your ass up and let's go to the hospital. He said, you think you slick? Nah. He said, get up. Get up. Mind you, we had been in that room for about 3 hours. And I kid you not, we was in that room for about 3 hours, and he pumping his little heart out, and nothing was happening. He was tired as hell. But he didn't want to stop until he knew I was pleased. And I thought, yes, this is working. We're going to miss my time, and they're going to have to reschedule. And I played myself, because he was pissed. He was like, get your ass up and get dressed, and we go to the hospital. So we get to the hospital, and I'm in there, And that's once I got to the hospital, I don't know what was going on, but once I got to the hospital, that's when the pains really started kicking in. I mean, they were kicking my ass, like really bad. I was beginning to be delusional because I swear to you, all I kept hearing in my ear was, you're only in pain because you're in the hospital. If you leave the hospital, the pain will stop. When I tell you that it felt like somebody was in my ear saying this to me, I kept trying to get up and leave. And the nurse, they had this belt around me because they wanted to hear the baby's heartbeat and stuff like that. And they kept telling me, Miss, we can't hear the baby heartbeat because you keep moving, you keep trying to get up. And I said, no, I gotta leave. I said, I gotta leave. I said, if I leave, the pain will stop. I said, and she said, what? I said, I'm only in pain because I'm in the hospital. I said, you don't understand. I gotta get out of here. So my husband's like, baby, what are you talking about? You talking crazy. I said, no, I'm not. You don't understand. I'm only hurting because I'm in the hospital. I have to leave the hospital. Once I leave the hospital, the pain will stop. It'll stop. I'm telling you, it'll stop. And I'm like this, and I'm trying. It'll stop. I'm telling you, it's gonna stop once I leave. They literally, the nurse had to call the doctor in there, and they literally strapped me down because I was trying to leave the hospital because of what I was hearing in my head. At this point, I think the pain just had me, I was done. That pain had took over my mind, my brain cells and everything, because I just knew that the whole cause of my pain was because of that building that I was in. And I had to get the hell out of there. I assumed that the minute I walked out of those doors, that all my troubles was going to be over. And I was trying to leave. So they strapped me down. And I wound up giving birth with my arms strapped. And he came out. And I passed my bowels on myself. And my husband said, it smells like a baby pit bull. But the doctor looked at him and said, what? He said, it smells like a baby pit bull. He said, how? He said, my bowel movement was black. I mean, jet black. And he asked the doctor, why is it black? And then the doctor said, because of all the medication that she was taking during her pregnancy test, the vitamins and stuff like that. My bowel movement didn't have it had a medicine-y smell. It didn't have a funky smell. It had a medicine-y smell. And he said that over time, that once all the medicine was out of my system, whatever, over time, that my bowel movement would go back to normal. But right now, it's because of all the hormones, plus the anesthesia they was giving me and all that. That's why. But when I tell you, that was an ordeal. And he was, my youngest son was 8 pounds, 2.5 ounces at birth. I had him, and oh my gosh, my husband told me while I was going through pain, my husband told me to grab his hand every time I feel pain, to just squeeze his hand. Now, y'all, I have a secret. I never even told him, I don't think. When he told me to grab his hand, I dug my nails in his hand so deep. I mean, our hands could have became one, because I just wanted him to feel the pain that I was going through. And even though I knew that the pain was never going to be different, never going to be the same, I was not about to let him get off scot-free, y'all. And I feel bad saying it because I was digging my hands in him on purpose. He thought I was going through pain, which I was, but that wasn't why I was digging my hands my nails in the hand. I just didn't want him to get off scot-free. I just felt like women have so much to deal with when, when we are pregnant, the stretch marks and the gain in weight, all the emotions we go through, being sad and crying for no reason, all this and that and the third. And then after all of that, of our bodies changing, our nose and face getting bigger and gaining all this weight that we never had before, and stretch marks in places we wish we didn't have, and all of this here, just the emotions by itself, the different emotions that we go through is crazy. And then the morning sicknesses and stuff like that, and being uncomfortable and not being able to sleep on our back or our side or our stomach, and I was a stomach sleeper and I couldn't sleep on my stomach. And trying to get used to sleeping on your side and stuff like that when you don't like it. And all of this, that, and the third, the cravings for the craziest things. And after your body going through all this trauma, then you have to give birth to the child. And you have to have all this pain. And then after the pain, you have your menstrual for who knows how long. Everybody's different. We all have it at different amounts of times and stuff like that. But you got to go through that. Then you got to heal for 6 weeks. And after 6 weeks, they have the nerve to come to you and ask you, are you ready? Because, they want some. Like, are you kidding me? But I didn't want him to get off scot-free, so I did what I did. And, I ain't 100% proud of it, but I ain't 100% upset about it either. I just felt like, he'll get over it. I did. So that was that, y'all. That's my birthing story. Now, unfortunately, I don't have videos of my birthing stories, because back then when I had my daughter, I was 21. When I had my son, my first son, I was 23. And when I had my youngest, I was 28. So I wasn't thinking about filming back in those days. I wasn't thinking about filming each moment and stuff. When I was young, I wasn't thinking about that stuff. So, but I do have pictures of my kids that I will be posting up at the end of this video. Now, it all started with my mother. So at the end of this video, I'm going to end this video with me and my mother. All right. So I want to give a shout out to a few women, Just Being Sierra, Mrs. Ameshi, aka Grandma Does It All. I want to shout out Life of P. Hey sis. And I want to shout out to my group of all the women in the group of WOW 2, and which is Women on Watch, in case you didn't know. And I want to say Happy Mother's Day to all of you real mothers out there that's doing the damn thing from sun up to sundown. That don't get a break hardly ever. I want to shout you out because you doing your thing. And where would these kids be without us, right? So I want to shout y'all out. Happy Mother's Day to all of you. I hope you get what you want. I hope you don't have to move a muscle and just stay in bed if that's what you choose, and be served all day long, because it's your day. Don't do nothing. Let everybody take care of you for a change. Don't make that a demand. Make it a demand. You take care of your family 24/7, 365 days out of the year. Mother's Day is your day. Do not do anything. Lay back, relax, and let the husband take care of the kids. And if the kids are old enough, let them take care of themselves. Let them fend for themselves for this one day. And you relax and you take a mental woosah and enjoy your Mother's Day. However that might be, go out to dinner. It doesn't matter. But let this be the day that you are pampered. All right? So, kisses to all of y'all. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. And like I said, it started with my mother. I'm going to end this video with me and my mother. Be blessed, stay blessed, y'all. Peace.